For more on the streaming wars and what the launch of Apple TV Plus means for viewers and content distributors, we're joined now by former Showtime CEO Matt Blank. What do you think about this idea of just having a handful of shows? Do you think that's a workable model?
Well, it's the ultimate curation, and it's interesting because the rest of the business seems to be going away from curation. Right. I mean, look, Apple is interesting. They're the only one of these launches coming up where, they're not playing defense. They're not trying to rationalize a legacy content business. That's what NBCU is doing. That's what Warner Media is doing. That's what Disney is doing. So Apple has, I think, the luxury of taking a different approach. We'll see if this content really makes a difference. It's interesting. Big stars, Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon. Who was the star of Stranger Things before it was on the air? How many people?
Right.
Or but that's not marquee.
Created a bunch of new.
Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. So that is not necessarily the path to glory.
Right. So since we last saw you, we've heard a lot more about HBO Max.
Yep.
And what that's going to look like. And we've been debating whether that is a workable model. Adding all of these other assets, does it change the brand proposition for what HBO is?
I think it does change the brand proposition, but maybe successfully. I mean, one of the things that's going to make it hard to evaluate all of these launches is in the past couple of weeks we're hearing about free.
Right.
HBO subscribers are going to get HBO Max for free. Apple is going to give away a lot of content. So you have one of those pig in the python situations. If we're sitting here a year from now or 2 years from now, there's going to be this giant mass of free subscribers moving through this streaming infrastructure. It's going to make it very hard to say if any of these strategies are really successful.
But if you were
a year from now,
actually, Barry Diller was here earlier this week, and we were talking about John Stankey, who may or may, I think may have gotten a bad rap actually within the sort of media community. We'll see whether this works. But would you bet on that?
Look, HBO is a great brand, and when we talk about a lot of the content that we're talking about, it's hard to beat things like Game of Thrones. But I think one of the things we're seeing right now, it's very easy for tech companies to buy content and get into the content business. It's a little harder for content companies to become tech companies. And I think that's significant when you look at some of the cultural aspects here.
What do you do about Netflix and valuation?
Well, you and I have actually talked about it. It's interesting. You've all spent a good deal of time in the past weeks and months talking about IPOs and the issues that WeWork had, WME,
right.
Peloton. I think it's an interesting question. What would happen if Netflix was going public today with the balance sheet that they have? Now they have tremendous revenue growth, but would they get the valuation that they have in the public markets today?
They have as many subscribers as they have right now, potentially.
Yeah,
huge.
They might, but again, at some point, when do these valuations start to merge? What valuations does HBO Max get? What valuations does Disney get? And what does that mean in the long term? And I'm by the way, getting back to Apple, I'm in the corner of they need to buy content.
You think they need a library?
I think they need a library. I think they need a lot of content production capability. And it's great to say we don't need that, but I'm not sure, what their long-term objectives are.
Hey, Matt, just when you talk about the valuations kind of merging for the old line stuff and Netflix, you think that happens because Netflix comes down, because the old line guys come up? Do they meet in the middle?
Well, I can't see if Disney has 50 million subscribers in 2 years. I can't see anybody valuing that part of the business the way Netflix is currently valued. You may say, well, it's just going to go on like this forever, but I don't think that's the case.
But when you say merging, you think dragging down?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And by the way, I'm a big Netflix fan. These guys are killers. They really know how to do it.
I guess, does it meet in the middle?
It may be.
Disney's valuation and everybody else goes up.
If successful. I think one of the things that the legacy media companies have to contend with is that they had some really good businesses. Some of these businesses were great businesses. You look at Disney, no business in the history of media had the better metrics than ESPN did 10 years ago.
Do you think Netflix could be as successful and spend less money on programming?
I do. I do. I think
they're going to have to.
They're going to have to.
They're going to have to.
Somebody used a term this morning. I was watching you briefly. Netflix is a long-tail business.
Right.
Long-tail businesses referred to the book business, the music business, where IP didn't cost anything. Mm-hmm. That was existing IP. Netflix is in a long-tail business where they have to spend a lot of money on new IP every day. But, you can never sell those guys short. I mean, I know, every day you hear about the Netflix killers. They are not sitting out there saying, oh, gosh, it was a good run. You're going to hear a lot more from them.
Final question. How many of these things you think you can really buy? Meaning, do you look at it and say, and we've been talking a lot about this in terms of competition, is it Netflix versus HBO Max versus Hulu? Is that one group? Then obviously you have Apple Plus, but that's sort of in a separate class. Is it in a separate class? Is Disney Plus in a separate group?
Look, I think all of that may not be terribly relevant. The relevant factor is, you can push a button and get rid of these services and come back on 6 months later and watch what you want to watch, which is why I think that you may see some changes in the way the pricing, the way these shows are released. It's just going to be different.